Today I will be talking about incremental rehearsal as an academic intervention. Incremental rehearsal is a drill ratio procedure designed to intersperse a ratio of unknown content to known content, such as words, math problems, and word meanings. Today I'll specifically be talking about incremental rehearsal as a reading intervention, but you could also use it as a math intervention. It consists of identifying 9 words that children have mastered. These words are classified as known words. The instructor also identifies 10 words that the child cannot read, and these are classified as unknown words. All words, known and unknown, are placed on index cards. The same unknown and known words are presented multiple times using a ratio of 90% known to 10% unknown. Now, regarding the steps in implementing the incremental rehearsal procedure, the first step is to present the first unknown word, orally read it to the student, and then have the student read it orally. The second step is to present the first known word and have the student read it orally. And the third step is to present the first unknown word, have the student read it orally, and then have the student read the first known and the second known words. The fourth step is to present the first unknown word, have the student read it orally, and then have the student read the first, second, and third known words. The fifth step is when the first unknown word becomes a known word, it remains in the stack, and the ninth known word is removed. For the sixth step is to continue the procedure until all 9 words have been introduced. For empirical evidence, I'll first be discussing the Burns et al. 2004 study, which investigated the effect of teaching unknown keywords as a pre-teaching strategy with 20 third and 4th grade students identified as learning disabled in basic reading skills and reading comprehension. The students read from 2 grade-appropriate reading passages, which contained contextual reading and 10 comprehension questions. Each child read the passages that accompanied his or her grade level orally while being timed, and the administrator verbally stated any words that the child did not read correctly within 2 seconds. After the student orally read the passages, a reading fluency rate was determined. Students were seen individually within their elementary school for one 20 to 30-minute session. One reading passage and accompanying comprehension questions were administered as a control condition in which no intervention occurred prior to the child reading the passage. The current study focused on keywords because it was assumed that grade level text would contain too many unknown words for children identified as LD in reading to be functionally useful, and previous research supported teaching keywords to improve reading skills. Each student was presented the passage's keywords to see if they could orally read them within 2 seconds of presentation. Words that were not correctly identified were considered unknown and were taught to the child. The 20 known words were also presented to find 9 known words, which were words that the student correctly orally read within 2 seconds of presentation. After finding the unknown keywords and 9 known words, unknown words from one passage were taught to the student using the incremental rehearsal model. The unknown words were presented in the same order as they appeared in the passage, and the order remained the same for each student within the grade group. Strategically pre-teaching unknown keywords increased reading fluency and comprehension among children within the study, with the latter demonstrating the stronger effect. Although the intervention currently used addressed word reading and vocabulary, significant increases in comprehension occurred. Next, I will be discussing the Joseph 2006 study, where the incremental rehearsal procedure using a 1 to 9, 10% to 90% ratio of unknown to known words was used to teach high-frequency words to 10 second graders who were receiving Title I remedial reading services. The students were given a screening measure of 100 high-frequency words. The words were placed on flashcards and presented to each student individually. After all of the words were presented once, they were presented again. For each student, words that were read correctly on both trials were placed on the known list, and words that were read incorrectly on both trials were placed on the unknown list. 9 words from each student's known list and 10 words from their unknown list were used during the implementation of the procedure. The 10 unknown words were administered once again as a pretest before the procedure began to ensure that these words were unknown to the student. If the student could read a word, the word was removed and replaced with another word that the student could not read. To determine whether students retained words learned during the procedure, they were post-tested on the 10 words previously unknown that were taught using the incremental rehearsal technique 1, 2, and 3 days after the day on which the procedure was implemented. The post-test consisted of presenting 10 unknown words on index cards and asking each student to read the words orally. The number of words read accurately was recorded. As a group, students were able to retain 70% of the words one day after they learned to read the words during the incremental rehearsal session. They were able to retain 90% of the words 2 and 3 days after they learned the words during the incremental rehearsal session. As a group, students were able to read an average of 90% of the words in the passages. Several were able to retain more words while orally reading a passage than on the post-test, possibly due to their ability to read words with the aid of contextual clues. Lastly, I will be discussing the Volpe et al. 2011 study, which investigated the effectiveness of incremental rehearsal as a Tier 3 intervention to improve letter sound knowledge and fluency with 4 kindergarten students. These children were selected for individual tutoring because they were unresponsive to the general reading curriculum known as KPALS, which was administered 2 to 3 times per week. They were not making adequate progress toward the end of the year benchmark of 37 letter sounds per minute by February. The Tutoring Buddy software program was used to administer an incremental rehearsal procedure to teach letter sounds using a laptop computer for all sessions. The Tutoring Buddy is composed of 4 essential parts: pre-intervention assessment of letter sound expression, a setup screen, an incremental rehearsal procedure, and a results summary. During pre-intervention assessment, the program presents 24 letters of the alphabet, one at a time in random order. The presentations of the letters was student-paced. Specifically, students were asked to make the sound for each letter as each was presented. After pre-intervention assessment, the program advanced to a setup screen where the tutor selected from pop-up menus 4 known and 2 unknown letters for use in the incremental rehearsal session. The incremental rehearsal session consisted of initial sound training and incremental rehearsal for both unknown letter sounds. First, the first unknown letter was presented in isolation. Next, known and unknown letters were presented in a continuous string in the following order: first unknown, first known, first unknown, first known, second known, first unknown, first known, second known, third known, first unknown, first known, second known, third known, fourth known. This process was repeated for the second unknown sound. For the second incremental rehearsal sequence, however, the first unknown sound became the first known sound, and the fourth known letter sound from the previous string was eliminated. And thus, they used an 80% to 20% ratio of known to unknown letter sounds. All 4 children received general education whole group instruction throughout the fall and early winter. Students were taught letter sounds using empirically supported teaching methods, including KPALS, administered 2 to 3 times per week. In addition to the KPALS, students received individual computer-assisted tutoring 3 times per week over the course of the intervention. Using Tutoring Buddy, 2 known and 4 unknown letters, as determined by performance during the pre-intervention assessment, were selected for intervention, regardless of whether they had been rehearsed during prior sessions. Findings from this study suggest that incremental rehearsal delivered via a computer-assisted tutoring program is an effective intervention for teaching letter sounds to kindergarten students who are not responsive to regular kindergarten instruction. For these students, the incremental rehearsal procedure was a highly effective intervention that was associated with increases in the number of letter sounds that children could express correctly. Each student gained between 6 and 9 letter sounds from the beginning to the end of the incremental rehearsal intervention. For theoretical support, I'll first be discussing establishing or motivating operation, which is an event or operation that affects an organism by momentarily altering the reinforcing effectiveness of other events and the frequency of occurrence of that part of the organism's repertoire relevant to those events as consequences. Research has shown that students tend to be more motivated and choose to complete assignments and tasks that contain some items that are known to them and that appear to demand lower levels of effort because they feel confident about their ability to complete such tasks. When students are given a choice between an assignment with known items interspersed with unknown items and an assignment with all unknown items, students choose the assignment containing an interspersal of known and unknown items. Because incremental rehearsal has both known and unknown words, the students feel more motivated to participate because they will be reinforced by the fact that they will be shown some words they already know, as opposed to if they did a procedure with just unknown words. They would not be motivated to continue that procedure because they do not know any of the words. The known words increase the effectiveness of the incremental rehearsal procedure. Next, I'll be talking about the law of effect, which is when in a specific situation, if a response is followed by a satisfying state of affairs, the response will become associated with that situation and will be more likely to occur again in that same situation. When completing items such as reading words serves as reinforcement and increases the likelihood of completing other items or reading more words until the entire task is accomplished, disruptive behaviors are not likely to occur or are reduced significantly if students are actively engaged working to complete tasks. By including known words, the student is more likely to want to continue the incremental rehearsal procedure. By completing the incremental rehearsal, the student's reading abilities will improve. Having improved reading skills reinforces the likelihood of engaging in and completing other reading tasks in class. Because the student is more engaged in the classroom, disruptive behaviors have decreased. The main advantage of implementing the incremental rehearsal procedure is that it produces better reading retention. It is especially useful for helping retain words with irregular spelling patterns, as students often have limited strategies for decoding or using context clues to read those new types of words. It allows students the opportunity to be repeatedly exposed to new words and allows students several opportunities to practice reading those new words. This is critical when we consider that students who are delayed in basic reading skills need more exposure and practice than students who are average and above average readers. In conclusion, incremental rehearsal is an academic intervention procedure for reading and math designed to intersperse a ratio of unknown content to known content. Students are repeatedly exposed to new words, and this procedure allows students several opportunities to practice reading those new words. Studies done by Burns et al., Joseph, and Volpe et al. Provided empirical evidence that supports the usage of incremental rehearsal and proves that incremental rehearsal is an effective academic intervention.